More than half of US consumers already use AI to research what to buy. Now, this episode couldn't be more timely because 48 hours ago of recording this, Shopify just announced that they're bringing checkout directly into ChatGPT, and not just Shopify, but Etsy, others, with what is called the Agentic Commerce Protocol, ACP for short. So AI agents can complete a purchase end to end. So this is a new channel strategy for Shopify merchants where your products now really have to be agent ready to be found, priced, purchased instantly. So now, saying this, people listening right now, brand owners, are either scared, they're maybe confused, they're maybe excited, maybe all of the above. And this is why I was really excited to have Gavin join me on the show today, because Gavin, you're the director at Shiro Commerce, spent over 25 years at the forefront of commerce, helping some of the biggest brands in the world solve complex problems, migrations, but most importantly, for today's episode, and the reason why I wanted to have you on here is you've helped brands build strategies for AI-driven commerce well before I think most people even knew what AI-driven commerce meant. So you've also become what I would say is one of the louder voices pushing brands to get agent ready for this coming wave of AI-powered shopping, which again is why I wanted to have you on the show. So thank you for joining me and welcome here.
Thank you, Jay. It's really great to be here.
I'm super.
That was a nice intro. That was a nice intro. So.
Oh, well, thank you. I put a little bit of thought into those intros.
But yeah, so I think around the agentic side of ecom and how that could potentially, I've just to kind of give some context to the listeners, I suppose. I've owned probably 15, 20 brands in the last 26 years. So I've been on the side where I've had to do everything. I've had teams who build things. I've worked for brand for that period of time as well. And I was a CTO for some big brands. And now I work on it. I work for Shiro Commerce as an agency, and helping other brands deliver upon that. And with that kind of gives a certain view of the things that I would be worried about if I was a brand owner. Like, what would be the things? But without scaring it, because I certainly wouldn't be worried. Like, I actually think I'd be the exact opposite. I think this is opportunistic. It's the same thing that happened in 2004 or 5 when you could run Google ads, or you could, or in 2008 when you could run Meta ads. And there's the whole period where things have to shift and the attention of generalized users moves.
Mm-hmm.
And all the thing that's really happened is, as everybody kind of knows, AI is big and scary. But if we look at it like at its core, without being scary, is, and I don't want to sort of quote the old Gary V sentence here, but in the sense of like wherever attention is kind of where you need to be.
Yep,
and if attention is exactly, and if attention is moving from traditional search engines to more agentic answers, which it is clearly across the board, I think attention for brands should move to that direction also. And with that in mind, if a brand, essentially agentic commerce is a case of the answer being predictably given to you, as opposed to you trying to find a way to hack the answer. So if we break down what a search engine does, like just a traditional search engine, or even any search, I would type something into a search engine, and a search engine has a lot of rules, and it says this is the best served results based off what you have given me. And those rules are predicated off things like, all the SEO standardized things. So backlinks, authority, content, like it's based off all the traditional SEO services. I think a little bit as we kind of get more in, it's just more a case of that the rules are changing to a degree. And it's no longer based off some of the realities of what we traditionally learned as rules that allowed us to be found. How do brands succeed? Like, how do brands succeed? users and then conversions, and that's it. That's really it. Like there's stuff in the middle.
So let's just we might be taking for granted that agentic commerce is a term that a lot of people are comfortable with, because I remember I was at Shop Talk in March this year, and I mentioned, someone asked, what do I see as the future of commerce? And I mentioned agents. The word agentic wasn't used that much, but shopping agents. And even then people said, what's a shopping agent? That made no sense. And then I did a post on LinkedIn, and it kind of went viral. I think it got about 300 comments on it, but the thrust of it was like, is agentic commerce potentially Shopify's biggest threat or biggest opportunity? And what does it mean? And basically everyone said like, well, that might happen one day. That's way in the future. That'll never happen. But in plain English, before we go, what is agentic commerce?
Okay. So yeah, in very plain English, agentic commerce is a case of agents are not humans purchasing from brands, so making decisions to buy from brands on the behalf of humans. So there's almost, to break this down a little, if we break down 3 stages of where we are within the e-commerce side. Stage 1 is I go to something, I type in my phone, I type in my browser, and I find what I'm looking for individually, and then I search and I filter and I find. And we've been in that stage for the last 20 years, 25 years. Stage 2 is I would ask an answer engine to find me the thing that I'm looking for, but not just find me the thing that I'm looking for. It could be, it has certain specifications. I need it delivered on a certain time. It needs to have a certain level of reviews. Like there's a certain element of things that I need to give that answer engine to give me back. That's stage 2. And we are just entering stage 2 right now. So we've been in stage 1 for 25. We're about to enter stage 2. And then stage 3, from the agentic commerce standpoint, will work a little bit more like this, in the sense that your personal answer engine or your personal assistant that exists, either that's a conversational assistant or somebody you just ping in your notes, could surface in any way you need, will, on your behalf, go out and find the very thing that you want to deliver. And to kind of give an extreme example of that, my little boy's into Pokemon cards, and
So is mine.
and it's particularly difficult in the UK to get good Pokemon cards. Now, in the current way that I shop online, and this is going between stage 1 and stage 3, but to demonstrate what that might look like, stage 1, I have to constantly look at the same websites to see if I can buy those Pokemon cards. Stage 2, I will have to ping an answer engine to see if anybody has these Pokemon cards. But stage 3, I will just tell my agent that I need to buy these Pokemon cards. You need to find me them, and this is how much I'm willing to pay. And it will get me those Pokemon cards when they become available. So when we think about it from a user standpoint, my little 7-year-old Jay thinks that the way that I shop is bananas. Like I love seeing the world in the sense of a child's eyes, because he literally looks at the way that Dad, why do people do this? Like, just really, why when you want to buy a microwave, do you have to type in that you want a microwave, and then you have to go to a website and filter 500 different things, and then see if it's in stock and then change website? I'm not saying websites are dead by any means, but the very fact that a 7-year-old is kind of like, why do you operate in that way? It doesn't make any sense to me. It's kind of the very reason that we're kind of heading to that place, I suppose.
My son is 8 years old. He asks the same questions, and he is a Pokemon fanatic. So I feel like we're on the same.
They need to do some trades, Jay. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, he would love that. He's got spreadsheets. He keeps track of all his cards and the card scanners, all that. Yeah,
but he's involved.
Yes, he is. So what was announced 2 days ago was the ChatGPT's, OpenAI's agentic commerce protocol, which basically now you can search for a product. You can say, I'm looking for a pair of shoes under $100 that are white, something that can be here by Friday. It can find that, and I can complete a checkout. This hasn't rolled out yet. I think it's rolling out over the next couple weeks and not in every country, but it's essentially here. But I'll be able to complete a checkout in ChatGPT without ever leaving ChatGPT.
Exactly. Yeah. So
there's a lot of
there's
a lot of
into
questions. Yes, there is a lot of questions. I mean, I compiled a list of all of them. I mean, and kind of I had
just the SCP questions as well. That's good.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, first of all, for our audience is all Shopify merchants. It's the Shopify 1% show. So I think what people should know off the top is if you're using Shopify payments, which is built on top of Stripe, by default, you will have that. And I don't know if it's rolling out for every country, but that's the premise, correct?
That's true. That's 100% true. And the other benefit of that, I suppose, as well is that you have catalog API as well, which will, so there's two sides. You're exactly right. So if anybody is on Shopify, you are currently, when that rolls out, there's an initial sign up period where they're going to use sign up only just to roll it out. They can't do it across every brand. And you can log on to Shopify to do that, and you can find where that lives. Jay might share that link on either of the things to do that. But the reality is very shortly after, everyone will be enrolled anyway. And there's kind of two sides to this. There was two things that were announced in the last 5 months that matter on this exact thing on ACP. And the first thing that was announced when I was at editions.dev in Toronto, which is Shopify's annual conference around development and what they're going to build in their roadmap. I had a chat with Vanessa Lee, who's the head of product at Shopify, around this, and they announced that they're going to be using a thing called Catalog API. And a Catalog API, just to really break down what that means in simple terms, is it basically means every piece of product data on a Shopify store is given away through that API, and certain LLMs use that API. So GPT uses it, Perplexity uses it, and a variety of others, and it's going to roll out. So if you update product data on your Shopify store, it essentially rolls out to those in real time. It's not like a delayed reaction. Think of it like a product feed you might do to ads, but live, right? So I add a new product to my Shopify store. Is that going to feature in an element of whatever an answer engine knows, i.e. ChatGPT? That's what it'll do. So I think around that was like the first meaningful thing that happened, but it didn't really have any benefit because what's the point of surfacing products? And the way that it's worked for the last 5 months, is you click through to your Shopify store and you purchase on the store. And other brands have this, like other platforms, other elements of things you can do this generally now, but this is specifically for Shopify. So your products got fed into these answer engines. So if you said, I'm looking for a new vase that's 32 centimeters high, and it's a floor vase, and it could, it's made out of this particular glass. GPT would try to give you the best answer based off what it was being fed by Shopify. You don't need to do anything. That's happened. But the thing that was announced 48 hours ago is now you don't need to leave GPT itself for the purchase. So traditionally, you'd be pinged off to the website. You'd then have to complete checkout as you would. Now you can just US first, but you can complete checkout directly in the LLM. And this creates a very, very interesting segment of what that might look like and how that works. What control do brands have? What control does that look like? How can we improve, being more featured? Where are the benefits? And it opens up. They announced that they were going to do this when they announced they were doing the feed. It's the very reason they did the feed.
For sure.
But with anything, and this is, I don't want to get too technical, but with anything that's new, there needs to be new rules and new protocols. And ACP is fundamentally that exact thing. It's a protocol of it's a set of rules of how you give me some data from one system to another. That's all it is. And when that rolls out, that allows those rules to happen. The great thing about it is that from a brand perspective, you don't really have to do anything from that side. It's already happening. You don't have to worry about the protocol.
So at first this sounds great because you think, well, I'm going to, normally when someone searches for a product through ChatGPT, clicks on your site, we know that over 95% of them won't complete the purchase. They abandon the checkout. They don't make it through purchase for whatever reason. Industry average is maybe just under 3%. So now you think, oh, great. If I'm in ChatGPT and I search for something and I can complete the purchase right there, that eliminates all of that potential loss in the leaky buckets of a website. But then the more you think about it, you start to think, well, what if you don't that example of that vase or the black shoe under $100? If there's 1,000 stores on Shopify selling a black shoe under $100, which one gets shown?
Yes.
Which
So
I guess leads into the next. Yes.
Yeah, there's 2 points on that. Is whether there's a misunderstanding by brands of why conversion rate doesn't happen, like just collectively, I don't mean AI wise, is 80% of shoppers were never buying in the first place. Like that's just a rule. So you didn't have the 80 ever. So you're using it a full benchmark of why it's principally on conversion rates. I think it's based on if there's an intent to buy. So if it's hobby based or if it's needed to buy. So if you need to buy toilet roll or you need to buy groceries, the conversion rate will be higher than it would be if you need to buy, saunas, right? It just will, because there's a difference between the need and the product. So there's a collective thing of conversion rates based off the factual amount of users that is collectively done. And I think that's a slightly yes, I get why it needs to be done because we're spending fundamentally money on clicks, and we'll get onto that later. But getting into the element of why I think, how does a brand get shown in a more prominent position within the answer engines as opposed to anywhere else?
Mm-hmm.
And this has been said many times, and you might have heard this, but it is really, really about data. So if we break down what an answer engine is, or an LLM is, at its true core, its job is to predict what the next word or element or thing should be around what that is. And if you break that down into its core of how it's trying to solve the problems of its users, it's trying to make sure that the product that it's served within itself is the best solution to the question that's been answered by its user. And with that in mind, there's a little bit that's went on in e-com, I think, in the last 30 years, and that is kind of like how we've almost programmed our brains for SEO. Like we've almost done it that way. Like and some brands, if you're an SEO orientated company, some brands aren't. There's sometimes an ads driven company, sometimes they generate traffic in other ways, and it's not really a game plan of theirs. But the brands that are SEO driven companies have kind of created their own rules around how that happens. And those rules are correct. Authority, backlinks, content, like it all matters. And it still matters, by the way. It still matters in the agentic era. But the thing that the agentic is trying to fix and will try to solve the most is that if it's found the best answer, it's not whether I've found the best match, and they're not the same thing. So if I give you the best match, I predicate that off a load of, if you think of the SEO variables within a brand. So if somebody looks at these are the 200 metrics that decide if a brand ranks number one on Google, right? These are the metrics. You've got more backlinks, you've got more authority, you've got better content. You've ticked all the boxes in, like, you do this, right? And these are just essentially weights. These are essentially weights that live within, that decide if this is more important than that thing. And around agentic commerce, the weights are around answering the question of its user and fixing the query. But that will predict if you answer the question of its user, and they are not. So the weights are not fixed. So weights within SEO are fixed until there's a new update on the SEO model. So Google has an update. I decide I'm going to re-rank my index. And then weights did change. That's like currently how it's worked forever, right? So I'm going to
Mm,
put more weight on the fact that you have alt text. I'm going to put more weight on the fact that you only have one H1 tag. I'm going to put more weights on whatever, right? You have more backlinks. And they alter the weights within the rules.
right.
Agentic won't work that way. It
Yeah.
will work like this. So the amount of data that you can give on Shopify specifically, in the clearest form of data to answer the questions that you think your user might answer, is probably the single most important thing around what you can do to be ranked. So when people are writing product descriptions, they should be written in terms of lots of technical detail around the product, answering things that you maybe don't think matters, but potentially might.
Mm,
So, things that the user might not ask, but
hmm
might make a decision. The answer engine itself might make a decision whether to serve as opposed to the word
hmm
itself. Let's use this hypothetically. Um, let's say that you're selling fishing rods, okay? And I need to buy some hooks for that fishing rod, and I need to catch some mackerel or cod, right? So I don't know anything about fishing, and I'm starting out. And traditionally, I'd go to Google and I'd type in, I need some mackerel hooks.
What
And
is the best macro
brands,
hook? Yeah.
what's the best mackerel? And
Yeah.
the way that brands would have thought about that would have been is we'll mention the word mackerel and we'll mention the word hook and we'll write a little piece on this. And that's fine, by the way. That's all great. That
Yeah.
works, right?
And you might have a blog post with the title, "What is the best macro hook?" that links to the product. And we've got a whole, yeah.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
exactly that type of thing
Yeah.
in the sense of, yeah, you might have a blog post around that. And whereas now the job is to say I think from an LLM perspective is to make sure the LLM understands in context itself what it is that the product can serve before that gets delivered. So what I mean by that is think about your brand as an and think that there's somebody else in the room that you need to explain what that product does. And if
Mm,
they can understand what that is, as opposed to get the word in what that is,
yes.
and then
Yes.
that can translate the context, then that is the best solution of what that is. So I'm
Mm.
probably not articulating myself particularly well there, Jay.
No, I get it. I get it. Or how do I put this? You can tell when you go to a product page that is SEO optimized, and we talk about this sometimes a lot. It's like, are you writing for a human or are you writing for Google? And you want to try to write a little bit of a blend where you keyword stuff a little bit, but you still make it sound natural. But it's all about keywords, phrases, inbound, outbound links. With LLMs, it's about giving all the data they need to fully understand like a 360-degree view of that product, of its measurements, every weight, every detail, how it's used. As you were talking, I was thinking probably FAQ sections on a product page are more relevant than ever, like with
Well,
20 questions, right?
FAQs are huge, right? And they will be. And Shopify brought out an app called Knowledge Base,
Yes.
which is fundamentally just an FAQ page, right? That exists. It doesn't exist at product level, but it allows you to feed that data. So it's really great. If anyone hasn't tried Knowledge Base and has it on Shopify, I would strongly suggest putting it on. It's a little bit manual and it's kind of its first infancy. I'm sure it will get more adapted into certain things as it goes. Around that point, though, I think there's a big shift between brand types as well. And let me explain, right? There's legacy brands, and let's use a legacy brand as a brand that's more than, I don't know, 10 years old, right? Let's just use that hypothetically. Legacy brand 10-year-old started off on SEO, fell into the influencer marketing side, chucked into ads, handles it in whatever context it does. We're now into a point where um, I think there's an opportunity for more disruption for non-legacy brands. I think if there's any level of concern, it should be around the legacy brands pivoting to make sure that they are doing this and not resting on their laurels. The fact that, we spend we spend 45% of our revenue on ads, so therefore it converts. whereas the users have all left where the ads live. And the ads then, yeah, they might get cheaper, but it doesn't matter because no one's using them around, as opposed to the kind of distributor brands.
Hmm.
I think AI and agentic opens up huge opportunities for anybody out there that's even considering about starting a brand to not think about product pages as product pages, to think about them in itself. I won't say the word manifestos because I think that's crazy, but I will say in the sense of is if you could distribute it at that level where you can alter how that lives within the answers it could be delivered.
Mm.
Um, I think that a lot of distributor brands could really shake that up. Like if you look at the go-to plan for brands in the last 6, 7 years, right, is start a brand, have some money, fundamentally buy a product at 25% COGS, like I speak very frankly, and spend 45% on marketing and scale it, right? That's like the
Hmm.
literal strategy of where that lives.
Hmm.
Like, and listen, strategies work and that works, right? That's just what it is. 25 on COGS, 40 on ads, chuck it out, get traffic, pull it through. Okay, that's great. That isn't going to change overnight, by the way, guys. Like, that's not going to happen. People are still going to use Facebook and Instagram, and people are still going to use, Google to find things. I think it's the percentages of the marketing side that switches significantly. And the
Mm.
thing that Shopify brands can do the most is there's two real things, I think. But the first one, Jay, is your product listing can no longer be weak, right?
Hmm.
Brands that have decided they're a very ads driven platform that it doesn't really matter if their product descriptions are strong. I think that's gone. I think at least in the description cell on Shopify, like add some level of content. There's no excuses anymore. It's got like you can write 2 sentences and get it to write 4 paragraphs. So just get it to do that. The second thing I'll say, and I think this is a bit of a hack, or not a hack, but like a thing that's very important, is I know in Catalog API that it feeds off every single metafield that lives on a product, right? So if you make a metafield that lives against the product,
Hmm.
you automatically know that that's been served through Catalog API, and therefore if it's automatically been served by Catalog API, it's automatically going in to LLMs. So from a brand perspective, if there is information that you would like to feed in to an LLM, let's say a product level, could be a collection level, could be a brand level. My suggestion would be is make it a native metafield on Shopify. So make a native metafield, give it the context that it needs within that metafield. So hypothetically, let's use the fishing rods example I used earlier, Jay. What are these hooks good for?
Yeah,
Like,
fishes,
what can I?
species it can catch. Label that as the metal field, and then put the fish species.
Yeah, and exactly, and list
Yeah,
them separately and say these species are this is what it is, and write that out verbatim. So it is very, very clinical that when that gets into the LLM and it gets its learning data.
yeah, that's
And,
great. That's great advice. I mean,
and two of the, sorry.
eventually, when every brand starts doing that, though, it's kind of like I see it as a little bit like some of the early days of SEO. There's things you can do like this that are like easy wins now, but the LLMs are like the cream always has to rise to the top, right?
It
There's,
will. It will. The cream will rise to the top, I think, through a lot of other things as well. And it is around data, all of it. Reviews are going to play a more prominent position than ever before in life, ever, right?
mm,
So the human element of this, so the human part that when we do a purchase, we are willing to say that this brand did a great job, is going to play a drastically bigger importance in the non-human part than anybody really kind of can compute at this point, I don't think. So reviews,
mm,
how they surface on LLMs, like right now we're currently building protocols to make it work. Like we're just not like it's the equivalent of like I've made the protocol to make this tap run hot water, right? And then I'm going, yeah, but I need to swim and win the Olympics. And I'm like, no, but you can't even get hot water yet. So we're at the stages to this to a degree. we're on the protocol of building this out stage. But be sure to make sure that you're on review platform that is thinking about this. Speak to whoever works for your review platform to make sure that they are considering, because this is not going to judge. It's not the data itself. How much the LLM has of data to give it the best answer to its user is literally going to be the metric. What I mean by that is I what did I buy earlier? I bought some top loaders for the Pokemon cards earlier, right? And I went to Amazon and I clicked on the reviews and I read 20 reviews on some top loaders because my little boy doesn't like particular ones. But in an agentic world, I would write that I don't want that to be the case. Now, the product listing would not be expected to have that this particular product didn't do a particular thing, but the reviews themselves will dictate if they do a particular thing. So he doesn't like a blue tinge in top loaders. That's it. I don't want any blue tinge in my Pokemon top loaders. Okay, Dad. So I look at the product. I'm not reading the product description because there's no brand telling me
no blue tinge.
That there's no blue tinge. So I look at the reviews and I immediately see that this brand says, by the way, there's no blue tinge. And I buy it, right? Which is great. Because, like, why did I have to go to the product page? Why did I have to read the reviews to do this? But the answer existed in the reviews. The answer I wanted existed in the reviews, as opposed to the answer existed in the context of what a brand can deliver. So right now, we're not there yet. So we can't do anything on that unless somebody wants to come up with the biggest hack in history and start making metafields for every review. But let's not go there for now.
Well, I could see some of the reviews apps having their own metadata.
Well, of course, they will do. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But that won't necessarily feed into Shopify catalog.
Well, it would, but you have to think about it as three different layers. So Shopify as a platform is the platform, right? That's where it lives. Because it's a big platform, the biggest e-com as a platform, in the world, it has inroads to get your data into these platforms first. That's a great benefit. The things that live around that, i.e. your reviews platform, right, are not there yet, right? So they're unsure themselves of whether they feed these through ACP directly into the LLM, which is probably how it will work from my CTO brain, but that's probably how this will work. So you'll probably find, the big guys, your Trustpilots of the world and your Fee4s, or feed directly into the LLM, mapping what that looks like. There also needs to be a constitution of how that product data how does it match and know that that's the same product. So if there's a single product with a single SKU that's collectively stored by 500 stores worldwide, the LLM's going to want to know that that's stored by 500 stores, right? It's going to matter. Whereas in SEO it won't matter. It will only matter what's on the page that you visit because it's judged off backlinks and context. Whereas the LLM will fully understand that if you're buying an iPhone 17 Pro, 128 gig in black, that there's all these other stores that sell this product. There's loads of them, right? And reviews will become a little bit non-universal to a point as well. So, because other people will sell the same product and it will recognize that it has the same IBIN number, it's the same piece of data, and I can solve the same problem from someone else. Now, the weights that the individual LLMs put on what it actually surfaces on its own platform are yet to be decided and yet to be understood. So right now, they're data hungry, so feed them is the job.
So on the reviews, would this be a good strategy? I know a lot of times when brands ask you for a review, they have, I don't know, some type of an incentive, like you get a 20% coupon or something else. But if you specifically, like if I'm a brand, knowing the importance that LLMs are finding data about the products to answer questions, instead of the reviews being talking just about how much they love it, great product, oh OMG, I love this. Ask customers to say why they love
Yeah,
it.
I
Ask,
think that's a great, Jay, I think that's a great solution in the sense of I I, I think from a brand perspective, the more context that can be put on and less of the top level, like top purchase was on time type
yes,
context that we see
exactly.
in, look at the eBay reviews. It's almost a joke. Like it's
Yeah.
just like I have
A
to skip
plus,
through
plus, plus,
nine.
plus, plus, plus.
That's not what reviews are anymore, right? Reviews are tell me why this was great. Tell me why this was great, and I'll give you 20% off my next purchase. Is an absolute fantastic angle. And actually, in the future, will be more valuable than any type of than a lot of types of contextual, you know, free gifts, discounts that live on the PDP, and certain marketing hacks. Brands will be craving um, getting context into reviews around user sides. Obviously, that means that they're a good brand, the ones that are good brands. But the ones that aren't, sell a good product.
I mean, if I'm a reviews app listening right now, I would be changing my input fields rather than just click 1 to 5 stars and leave a comment to 3 questions. What do you love
So,
most about this product?
yeah,
Why did you decide to buy it? And
for,
what would you
for
and what would you yeah.
48 hours ago, Jay, this was not a conversation. And that's what I love about this, in the sense that that's why this is the most interesting time. I was speaking to and I won't say the name, probably one of the biggest search apps in the world this morning, and somebody, their product team, and around a call I was having at work, and I think they were talking about how search is going to be affected, and I
Mhm.
said, but think about it. Think about search in the context of either what happens on the site or doesn't. If you sell search, it's your fundamental job. But if you sell search and you're selling it to an LLM, suddenly you're not selling it to a user. I'm selling it to an LLM, right?
Mhm.
So if you sell a product, I sell an iPhone, right? I sell this phone, and my job's to sell search. Traditionally, how I would sell search would be, I'm looking for an iPhone. I'm looking for a black one, this gig, whatever. That's how I'd sell search. But if you sell search in the future, you're selling it through ACP
Mhm.
and the context that lives behind that, in order for that to understand why they should buy that from you. And your job is to add more context as the purpose and the variables as to why that happens. So whilst if you look at this through a traditional lens, if anybody looks through this traditional lens, whether it's a search app, whether it's a review app, it doesn't matter in any level of application. I won't get into big tech stack talk here, but like in the context, if you look at it in the sense of contextually, I don't think I can make this work. It's like, of course you can. Search has just
Mhm.
moved. And how you deliver that search has just moved. How you deliver reviews has just moved. But from a brand standpoint right now, the lucky thing, I suppose, about where we are is there's not a lot to do, because not a lot of users have pivoted. How many people are in 2 months? What percentage of people are going to be shopping on GPT? Probably very small. But in 3 years, what percentage of people are shopping on GPT? And that's what matters. So I think, as we get into the holiday season and the Black Friday season, e-commerce managers, CDOs, um, everyone in dev shouldn't necessarily hugely be panicking, but they
Mhm.
should be, putting a plan in place on how
Mhm.
they can enrich, answers to these machines in order to deliver the
Mm.
answers that are correct for the brands that they have.
It's going to be an interesting time because I mean, I can't remember if it was before or during the episode, but you talked about Gary Vaynerchuk talking about how there's points of time to take advantage of something. And, it was during 2004 with Google Ads. I was there. I ran a store and I remember buying cents a click and it was the best thing in the world. And
I run ads for free for 2 years. For 2 years
you
straight.
got, you
I
beat me,
turned it up. I run Google ads for free for 2 years on 4 brands and sold all of them fully.
man. If only
But
you could go back to
it
that
was
time,
wild.
right? But now we're living in a new
It was
time that we'll look
in a
back
new
on in
time.
a similar way. Because right now, you know, I think everything you've said has been super important for brands. Like, okay, I mean, we can get into a lot more, but like the product page, giving it information, structuring reviews. But where my mind goes to is, okay, in 6 months, are
Ads.
we going to start? Are we going to start seeing, well, that too, but also every product page being super long form with tables and grids and like, okay, so if it does,
Of course. I think if we were frank though, Jay, I think if we were absolutely frank about the big brands, any brand doing more than, I don't know, 5 mil, right? Any brand, right? Worldwide, 95% of them are spending money on ads, right? Like a significant amount of their revenue on ads. That's just the collective case. Like there's no point hiding around it, right? Like it's just, that's what it is. That any brand above £5 million, dollars, whatever, right? They're spending a significant amount on ads. I think the thing that does change on ads is where it's spent. That's the only thing that I'm saying. So it's a case of if 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 there's a brand selling fishing rods today and it's a $12 million brand, okay, and it makes $1 million a month in revenue and it spends $1,000 a month on ads, $200,000 a month on staff, $200,000 a month on cogs, and it makes $100,000. I'm not saying that's like the formula, but I'm just demonstrating that that's like not unusual. And those ads are now surfaced somewhere between, I don't know, TikTok, Meta, and Google. I think the percentages of those ads in the next 18 months change drastically because OpenAI is going to have to IPO, right? So they sign a $6 billion dollar fundraising round about, I think it was about a year ago now, just under. And in that fundraising round was an agreement that they have to change from a non-profit to a profit. This matters, by the way. It really matters. So, and when they have to go to a profit company, that means they're going to have to IPO. And when they IPO, they're going to have to raise revenue very quickly. And right now, charging $20 for ChatGPT Pro isn't going to cut it, right?
well, I think right now
the
they're like the drug dealers getting everyone in the world addicted. Like if I'm on the $25 a month plan for Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, all of them,
They
and
get you
now if
addicted.
I buy on it and
But
I
but
have all
but
my workflows.
Amazon Prime did the same. Amazon Prime did the same though. Like you have to do that. There's an infrastructure there. There's a loss
Yeah.
making. Any monster company, like if you're thinking big plans, whether they succeed in the long term is if you're thinking big plans, there's a loss making 5 years. Like there just is. There's an infrastructure layer that needs built. Like they just always will. 10 years. You know, when Amazon built the infrastructure layer, but it was buying all its warehouses and its vans and building its distribution layer. That's of course what happens. That's not insane. That's what you need to do. But from the GPT standpoint though, because they'll need to IPO, and I think this will happen kind of like I don't think it'll happen. I mean, I don't think it'll happen before this Black Friday. I think they would love it too. But when that happens, there's going to be this very immediate switch in e-commerce world, right? So I don't know. Let's suppose that your average cost per click on Meta and on Google is $1, hypothetically, and your conversion rate's 3% in any niche. And then all of a sudden, GPT comes along and charges 20 cents for a click, and your conversion rate's 5%. What do you do the following month on your ad spend? When you're sitting down with your market manager and you see a more and you're having that conversation, you're going, right, we need to put more spend in this. Now, there's a case of like chicken and egg here, though. Like, are there users there for the demographic that matters? Like, you know, the demographic that's using GPT more is definitely Gen Z and under right now. Like, that's 30 and under. A kid, like, they don't Google anything anymore, right? Like, they just don't. Like, literally. They'll just.
Yeah.
Like,
but even with Google something, it's the AI results are first anyway. So you're using Gemini.
They are, but they're still trying to sell a click. You know what I mean? You got to think what Google is. Google, from its fundamental core, is trying to sell you a click. It's not trying to sell you anything else. It's why you have to scroll for 2 minutes now to find things that aren't clicks. So, and from a sales standpoint, and whether users understand that, I don't know. But I look at this from a marketing development standpoint. And it's got a little bit worse on that. I think product listing ads have been pushed down significantly. PLAs, Performance Max, is across any brands I know of, kind of they're struggling to a degree. And again, it is about where attention lives and where people convert. I always have a certain thing about I never was a massive meta fan in my brands, to be honest. I always saw products that were good and not trying to like, and that isn't like a hack to anyone who sells massively on meta, but like they were always more expensive. And I think if you're not in the impulse scenario to buy, I'm not in the mindset to make a purchase, then I won't
Yeah.
buy.
Yeah.
Like that's just the way it is. Same with the App Store, Jay. You know, if I'm not looking for an upsell app, I'm not buying an upsell app. I'm just looking
Yeah.
for one.
Yeah.
It's a big difference, right?
Yeah.
I think that the reality is if somebody on an answer engine that we're now calling them, i.e. an LLM, um, asks a specific question, it's the level of specificness and then certain variables within the question that will dictate whether or not that will become a transaction, right?
Hmm.
So what I mean by this is I ask a question like, I need a black microwave that's 700 watts. But if I ask, I need a black microwave that's 700 watts and I need it here by Friday, that is significantly transactional, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So around that point, that's where I think the ads platform itself, which will exist very soon across
Hmm.
LLMs,
Yeah.
will more lean into. So it will charge more for phrases that are more transactional and more conversional than we have previously seen on any other platform. But to start, it'll be very cheap. It will get everybody on board. Brands will grow up. Every brand on Shopify should immediately switch marketing spend, by the way, like right away.
Hmm.
And if you want to switch marketing spend, this is what I will say is get your product feed in order. If you do not get your product feed in order and get your data correct, when the switch happens, it's going to be problematic to move to those platforms. Like, so whatever they connect into, they could, they could connect in directly. They could ask for a feed. Sorry, Jay,
Right.
I interrupted you there.
No, I was going to say I'd love to like actually go into that. So what does someone I think there's probably a lot of people listening nodding their heads going, "Okay, I'm in. What do I got to do? What do I like what are my
Yeah,
steps like right
yeah.
now?"
Steps right now is export every piece of product and collection data right now, all of it, right? Take everything off site, look at it, review it, give it to your teams, ask them to enrich that data. Find whatever data you can online, enrich it. I'm not trying to sell anything here, but like there are ways to do this. Like, Shiro has ways that we can enrich data that like automatically through AI to do that to make it more like
And
be
when you
what it
say
is.
enriched data, you mean you export your product CSV, you have all your products and now like descriptions, titles, all the
Well, let's
attributes.
well, let- well, let, well, well let's use the fishing rod example. And again, I kind of go back to that in the sense of there's a fishing rod, and I sell hooks, and these hooks are really good at catching sea bass, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and right now, that's what somebody has wrought out. They've got a 25,000 SKU collection, and they're a 12-man team. They have no time whatsoever to update that collection because, like, they could probably do one product description update every 18 minutes for a lifetime and never get through it. So what happens is they just don't bother. Um, there's there, so they kind of forget the fact that that matters, like really matters. But really, what they should be doing is going into their key product lines, making sure that they're informing that product line, not looking at it from a Google lens, looking at it from what problem does this solve lens, and writing the answer to that problem. And think about it like you are speaking to your 10-year-old son and write it out like that. So this hook can catch mackerel. It can catch cod. It works on a Friday. It can work on boats. It can work on shore. Right? Do you get what I mean? Right? So, explain it in those terms, like you are think about it like you are training something as opposed to giving the words to something, and 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 write it out in as much context as you can. Certainly for your key product lines. So, big brand on a brand doing 5 mil on Shopify now, and they have 200 products and 20 of them are their big core lines. Go into those 20 products, all of them, and write out every question a 10-year-old would ask about that product into the product description. Add it, if you can, add it into a metafield about what that actually is answering. That's even better because it fragments it out. But as a minimum, add it to the product description. Make sure inventory is correct. Make sure all context that it lives on that PDP is correct, and collection page. If you do that, you'll be 1,000% ahead of most people that even think they're ahead of this game.
What do you think happens when there's two brands that have perfectly optimized products? Is there? Do you think what's the secondary?
Well, again, I think that is. I was speaking to somebody in AI about this the other day. So AI at its core, Jay, and this is like a more grander question, and this is not to scare brands and merchants. But AI is a predicting engine. It works principally like Grammarly does to predict that you're going to write something, but on a much grander scale and in a much higher context window. And the weights that live around that model, and what I mean by weights is the things that you give the highest level of decision to. So is the highest level of decision by ChatGPT going to be the fact that you
delivery?
Give... Is it speed delivery? Is it the fact that you give me more data? Is it the fact that your site's load quicker? Is it the fact that I have the livest access to your data? Is it the fact that you're cheapest and I think it'll convert because I would buy that if I was you? So there's a whole host of like these new rules that are not yet fully promulgated. I look forward to working out what those rules are, by the way, and we will very quickly. But one thing is absolutely certain, though, right now, is the answer engines feed on data. It's their most valuable asset. So if there is any piece of data that seems matterless, let me give an example, right? You sell these fishing rods, and you don't want to say that they're made in China because you think your audience won't want that, right? Make a metafield, add that it's made in China. Right now, just add it. Just because there's some people that will like that's actually a positive as opposed to a negative. So you need to kind of think of what I mean by that is I don't American made goods are expensive. I'm after a cheap fishing rod.
Yeah,
and then there's a context that lives behind that it's not. So it's the context. I'm not using that in terms of frame. I'm using that in terms of. There are many things that you can talk about any subject matter. I could talk about your baseball cap for 20 minutes, right? If I can talk about your baseball cap for 20 minutes, marketing should be.
I think what I'm hearing from this is better to be a position than to not, right? So like rather than not saying it's made in China or leaving out that it's something, there will be a segment of shoppers that is a plus. Better to show for that segment than to be vague in your product description with fluffy marketing, like the number one trusted, number one, blah, blah, blah. Be clear.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. There's 5 words that I think are very important. And I shared this on X yesterday. And I think this is kind of like a direction of where we're about to go, right? And I opened up ChatGPT and it asked me what's on your agenda for today. And it never asked me what I want to search for. It never asked me what I want to solve. It was trying to find out the problem that I was trying to fix, right? So the very thing that I'm trying to fix. Now, there are plenty of shoppers. To explain on this, if you think about this from a shop perspective,
my mind is going a million miles a minute right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
exactly. Yeah, that's good. So my wife loves nothing more than going into a big shop. Loves it. It's amazing. I walk in that shop and I'm like, and I would say it's a very, and I'm certainly not being sexist by saying this, but it's certainly like lots of men I know are very much in that manner, and lots of women I know are very much in that manner. And but in the same vein of what I mean by that is she gets delight out of the things that she could potentially have in her life, whereas I get delight out of running over people in Pac-Man, right? So so, and it's a very it's a very distinctive shopper experience, right?
Yeah.
And websites right now are definitely serving the mass store element of I like the brand experience. I want to feel what you're about. I need to feel the emotional connection. That's 100% where we are, and that's not going anywhere tomorrow. But there is a mountain of shoppers that are like me that need problems fixed that cannot be bothered looking at websites,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And the only reason Amazon killed it, it's only two reasons. It's its distribution network and delivery meets its large catalog. That's it. That's the only two reasons Amazon kills it. It's what Amazon's PDP is potentially the worst PDP that's ever been invented by anybody ever. It's an embarrassment to PDPs, and I don't care what anybody says. There's no A/B testing that can tell me otherwise. It's a joke. But it wins because I get my product tomorrow, and I've got a massive catalog to find the items I want, and that mountain of shoppers, the disruption layer that I think Shopify brands have to take and displace people from Amazon is crazy. Like it's crazy.
You said something. You said, what is the problem you're trying to solve today? And that just made a light bulb go off in my mind. You've obviously probably heard of like Clayton Christensen's job to be done theory, which is like everything does a job, right? Like black shirt, yes, it clothes me, but it also makes me look casual, makes me look somewhat professional, but still casual, whatever, it does a job, right? And when you said that, like a light bulb just went off, because that's the way people ask AI for things. Like, I'm looking for dinnerware for a romantic evening with friends or whatever. But we don't describe products that way. But if we start describing them, the job they do, the problem they solve,
And I
like
need it by Friday. And I need it by Friday. Is another
yeah,
one. So
yeah,
what I mean by that is if your delivery time can be
mm-hmm,
delivered by Friday, hypothetically, right now there'll be a lot of Shopify brands there that are now surfacing delivery time in non-ACP connected elements, shall we
yeah,
say.
yeah,
They're just surfacing on PDP through some fractional non-element. If you can tell if you can tell the LLM that it's delivered by Friday, because you've got a nice dinner date with your old college buddy, and this is what they're into. What should I wear? And I think as well, there's a secondary part to this as well, which I think is more interesting as well, in the sense of right now, the only thing that we've ever had to deal on product data is around we've had user journey and we've had cookies. And I will leave this thought with the user's minds because it will open up a massive element of where this is, of where this could look. But let's suppose every user has their own agent, and
mm-hmm,
it knows more. Your user knows more about you than your partner, than your mother, than your son, right? It knows more
mm-hmm,
about what you look for, how you work. So you're not talking, I've looked at these websites, I've buy these shoes, or I like to look at these brands. It knows those things. When your agent and when your user's agent is buying from agent to agent, which is the third stage of the thing we very much started with, what will they need to know to buy from that agent?
yes,
So at some point in the future, I won't walk in that massive department store, Jay, and be bored to my brains, but my wife will be delighted. I will just say, this is my problem. You know everything about me. Go and find another agent that can fix my problem, and then transact that and come back and tell me you've finished.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll leave the whole conversation around what AI will look like in e-commerce in 5 years on that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, it's an exciting time. And it's also, it's, I think it's an opportunity. I think everyone listening should be embracing this and excited as much as possible and spending a lot of time investing in things that we're talking about today. Because if you could go back, like you talked earlier, if you could go back and do 2004 again, or 2003 with when AdWords came
Yeah,
out, you could
of
probably
course.
be a billionaire if you could do that again, right?
I think you can do it again now, though. I think if you sell supplements to I don't know, weightlifters today, right? And you're not an Amazon brand, hypothetically, and you're the 50th biggest brand in America, right? And I mean online. I'm not talking channels. I'm just talking like on brand store. I think you have a ridiculous level opportunity to be the second biggest brand, like crazy. Like it's a case of jumping the queue, is what I'm saying. It's not the fact that there's anything to worry about. It's the fact that if you look at, I sell the most amount of handbags in the US. I sell the most amount of flat caps in the US. The opportunity lies for the 150th biggest selling flat caps brand in the US, because they can definitely be the top 20, because that's the pivot. It's not the fact that the one needs to worry, or the 150 necessarily needs to worry. It's the fact that this like level of divisions that I think brands have the opportunity to jump now. Why be scared? People are still going to transact. People still need products, right? They're still going to buy them. It's not going to change. It's just, if your tactic is very, very universal of, this is my current formula to achieve that, well, that's not going to be the same. That's fine, right? That's fine. The brands that are looking other ways are going to overtake you. So I don't worry about e-com. I'm so excited about it. I don't worry about Shopify brands in any way. Like, it's going to go up. There'll be more spend on e-com in the next 2 years than there've ever been. That's a certainty. But the way they spend and the things that they need to be delivered will drastically change. So it's the jump, it's the order of play as opposed to being scared. So I just want to point that out. I'm excited hugely by this, Jay. Like, I can see how this is about to play, and I think everybody should get excited about it, because the old guards potentially going to have to, step aside to a degree, and I think that's exciting for challenger brands.
Well, I think this is a great way to end it. I definitely could go on for an hour or two. I think I got through not even a quarter of my questions, but that's okay. That's how it goes. Well, you know what? With things changing and evolving so fast in the space, I'd love to have you on again in the future, because it'll probably be different.
I love that, sir.
4 months from now.
I love that, sir. It'll certainly be different in 4 months from now, and I think understanding that space, and I think as well, kind of reassuring brands that it does change to a degree. But really right now it's a case of get your data ready and make sure your market and spend's ready, and there's a lot of other things that live around that. And the value that you can give around what that does. Things will change drastically in 5 years. So I think I've had a really great chat with you there, Jay, and like, I've super enjoyed it. I really appreciate you asking me to come on.
Me too. Where can people go to learn more about you if they want to connect with you? What social platform on? Where do you want to send people?
Yes, yeah. So I'm on LinkedIn. Is my most prominent channel. I don't write that much, to be honest, but I work for Shiro Commerce. That's like my, that's what I do. So Shiro Commerce is an agency. If anyone's looking for any advice around anything I've talked about, please do visit Shiro Commerce and have a chat with me. I worked on brand, so I know what it's like to work with an agency, and I understand like how you can cut through where it needs to live. And I'm on Twitter, and you can kind of follow me on there. But LinkedIn is definitely where I write most of my content. and most of my learning. So it's just Gavin McKew on LinkedIn.
And I'll make sure to include all those in the show notes as well too. Gavin,
Gotcha.
thank you so much. This was a ton of fun.
Thank you, brother.